All right, so
Okay.
we're joined all the way from New York City in the Upper East Side by Dr. Kameelah Phillips, cast member of The Real World Boston Season 6, owner of Calla Women's Health. We thank you so much for taking some time for us. This is our entrepreneurship class here at Velma Jackson High School. I've got a room full here with me, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools: Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Option Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule for us.
Thank you for having me. I really look forward to our conversation.
Now, obviously, we want to we want to talk about Calla Women's Health. We want to talk about the book. We obviously want to talk about the real world. But just give us a little background. Originally from San Diego, went to Stanford
Mhm,
University. Grew up in
mhm,
a single parent home. Went
mhm,
to Stanford on the real world. Went to med school at USC, and now you've
mhm.
built this great practice out there in New York as an OBGYN. So just give us a little background of how you grew up.
Yeah. So I don't mean to be dramatic, but I actually do share details about how I grew up because I want people to understand that like I've had to work for things, even though it doesn't seem that way. I had to work for things. So I was born, my mom got pregnant at 18, had me at 19. So single mother. I lived in a multi-generational household, just like everybody else. Great grandmother, grandparents, mom, my aunts. There at least 12 people lived in our house at any given time. That's how it's
Wow.
done. That's how it's done. So multi-generational household, and it was the 70s, so there were a lot of economic social trials. I grew up with a good deal of domestic violence, and I don't say that again to be dramatic, but like to talk about and think about the challenges that come with growing up with domestic violence and the features of your personality that impacts and how you persevere and move through difficult situations. So I went to a school, predominantly Black school called Gompers. I realized in living with my mom, dealing with domestic violence, that as a woman, it was super important that I always have my own. I always do my own thing, and I wasn't ever held captive by someone either because of finances or housing or whatever.
There you
So it was
go.
important to me to do well in school, and I did. So I graduated valedictorian. I did AP classes. I kept my head down, nose in the books. I was not a popular person at my school at all. I was crazy teased. I was overweight. I would like people would run me into the bathroom and I would hide in the stall. So, it was not always roses and cupcakes growing up, but I kept my head to the ground. I ended up finishing high school in 3 years instead of four because,
Wow.
again, I was bullied so much. I just had to get out of there. And I spent a year in Honduras learning Spanish and traveling.
Wow.
I was 16. Um, I didn't know about Stanford growing up. My mom was a high school graduate. No one in my family had gone to college by that point. And I had a mentor that I met during my high school journey, and she went to Stanford. And she was like, "Have you ever thought about going to Stanford?" And had no idea what a fabulous school was. When I was in Honduras, she reminded me that my application was due. So I literally sat in a Wendy's in Honduras and wrote my college application to Stanford. I talked about my experience. I worked in an orphanage there. I talked about my experience of working in an orphanage, what it meant to me, what growing up with violence and how I looked to change the world by empowering women, what that meant to me. And I got into Stanford. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like the core backstory. I went to Stanford. I had no I got my butt kicked first semester. I went to a public school. I had no idea the caliber of people I would be dealing with. So again, I recalibrated, got my academics together, and after first trimester, I don't think I got below a B after that. Give me 1 second. Can you
Sure.
hand me my charger? My computer is going to die on me. Um, I got that together. I studied human biology with the emphasis in women's health and sexuality because I knew at that point that I wanted to empower women, help women succeed, survive, thrive through their health, and in that way help families. And that's kind of the backstory.
Yeah, and it's so cool because I mean we've had entrepreneurs of all types on this platform, and all of them have said kind of a similar thing. I saw a need, it was not being met, so I decided to turn it into a business. And it's crazy when we have we have all these young kids. We're a rural community, but when you see a need and it's something you're passionate about, and it's something that you really see a need for, and you solve that problem, the money's going to come. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that because you're doing something you love and you're impacting your community in such a positive way. And that's
Yeah,
what you've done out there at Calla Women's Health in New York.
it
A
is.
black owned business right there in the big city where you
Mm-hmm.
deal with a lot of you deal with a lot of female health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from pregnancy to I'm far from
Everything.
I'm far from a expert. I don't want to. I missed something, but just really making a need and a place where women of all types can come
Yeah.
get the help
Yeah.
that they need. Because it's like I was talking about this morning with another doctor. It's not that these other doctors are mean or not that they have evil in their heart, but they're not going to understand like
Mm-hmm.
you would with somebody who really
Yeah.
spent a lot of time and really speaks from their perspective.
Yeah. So what I would say about that is I have not been an entrepreneur my whole life. Or my entire life. I actually never thought I would be. But what I would say is my education and knowing my worth is something that I can't emphasize enough for you guys.
There you
No
go.
one can ever take away your education, and no one can ever take away your sense of self and what you bring to the table. So I actually started this practice because I got laid off. I got fired. And I
Wow.
was dumbfounded. I was in a group of 8 doctors, and one day we were called basically to the principal's office, and the CEO of the company said, "We're going a different direction. We don't need doctors, and your last day is, November." And my mouth was on the floor because how could you ever fire a doctor, right? And a good one at that.
Yeah.
So I didn't plan on opening a business or being an entrepreneur. And I did literally the day in 2020 when the mayor closed the city for COVID.
Wow.
Right. Right. And now here we are 5 years later. So I tell that backstory because let me not pretend that being an entrepreneur doesn't come with its challenges. And in learning to be an entrepreneur, I think it's so important, even in high school, to cultivate relationships with people that are eventually going to come in handy when you need advice or support or a hand or finances to help you get your dreams off the ground.
Yeah, and it's funny. I had a another doctor on the same platform here in Mississippi, and I got to
Mhm.
connect you guys too. She's the only black uh, pediatric GI doctor in the state of Mississippi, and yeah, and she opened her own business. She had been with a group. She opened
Mhm.
her own business because she
Yeah.
wanted to work for herself. And she said, "I had a great medical education. I knew all about
Mhm.
taking care of patients. I could diagnose everything in somebody's GI system. I knew all about how to fix them, but I knew nothing about running a business."
Business.
And
Exactly.
she said the learning curve. Now they're very successful. They're doing an unbelievable job. Her name's Dr. Angela Shannon. But she said I had to learn in a hurry. There's a big difference between being a doctor and being an entrepreneur.
Yes. I can't even say it any better. The learning curve is exceptionally steep. And what I would say, I always tell my young patients too who are going off to college, I'm like, "Oh, what are you studying?" They're like, "Psychology." And I'm like, "And you're going to do a minor in business." um, the importance of starting now, even with managing your money, learning how to manage a checkbook, learning how to invest, learning about 401ks, learning about IRAs and all the different things. And in high school and certainly in college, it doesn't matter the industry. you should take business classes so you can start to develop your business mind. And again, networking. If possible, when you go to your graduate school, a lot of schools have dual degrees where you can also do an MBA. That I, I look back at that and I think if I had a regret, that's probably what it would be, is not doing my MBA. I just wanted to get out of school and be done and like start my life. But I think if I had paused and just spent 1 to 2 years doing the MBA, all the like learning curves and probably money I lost would not have happened.
Yeah, and they've all in this class, they've all come up with their own business concepts, and we've got all kind of we got one that wants to do home health, one that wants to do
Yeah.
barbecue, one that wants to do one's already starting, she's already doing uh, some cosmetology type thing. So really
Mm-hmm.
getting that business mind. But one thing that I think is necessary for anyone in business is the ability to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
especially in your field. People that come to you aren't going to know about the human body like you do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to explain things to somebody and say, here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're facing. Here's the outcomes. And I have kids all the time say, well, I'm just going to be in the background. Well, if you're going to do somebody's hair, you got to talk to them. If you're going to
Yeah.
sell your product, you got to talk to them.
Yeah.
And we're doing these presentations now, and they get so mad, and I know I think they think I'm beating a dead horse. But how important is it to learn those communication skills to be successful in business?
Y'all, this is what high school is about. It is to prepare you for life and life skills. Don't come into my office not knowing how to present yourself if you want a job. Like, that's a hard stop. So, all of the practice that you are going through now is absolutely critical for any life skill. For getting, there are people who show up, for example, when I'm hiring, or people who show up and they walk in the door and I'm like, yeah, you're not a match. That is how fast people can size you up. And so, in an environment like that, it is critical that you represent yourself well, that you are erect, that you are well spoken, that you are articulate, that you can convey ideas. These skills regarding and around communication that you're learning right now are going to live with you for the rest of your life. My own kids, they'll say something and I'm like, try again. Start over, because I cannot impress on you how important communication is. And listen, we all code switch and, we're different people outside of our profession, but corporate America is a beast. Entrepreneurism is a beast times two. And so learning how to communicate and get what you need from people and convey information is almost non-negotiable. You have to know these things.
Yeah, and I know you'll agree with me on this. And I don't hold back any punches in here. I keep it
Mhm.
real because how appropriate. Somebody from the real world, I'm keeping it real. So just because of the color of these kids' skin, people are going to look at them different, and it's not fair,
Yeah.
and it's not
Hmm.
right. But we all know it's true.
It
So it's
happens.
hard enough to get over
Hmm.
even the unconscious preconceptions people are going to have about you as a
Yeah.
black owned business or as a female owned business or as a young black kid trying to come get a job.
Yeah.
And there have been things put in place to help you get that, but at the end of the day, you've got to take ownership of that and show why you're the best.
Yeah. I think about all the time, the times, like literally, people have told me that they've skipped over applications because of my name. They knew I was a black girl and they've literally skipped over my applications. I had a professor in med school. There's a white guy and I were both applying for a Fulbright scholarship. And I had a presentation on women in Africa and HIV transmission. The Fulbright, you guys can talk about on your own, but it pays for you basically to go abroad, live, and do amazing work. I'm not trying to downgrade his project, but he wanted to do a project on like a grasshopper migration in Brazil. And basically he was a surfer, so he wanted to go to Brazil. I had my white, yeah, I had my white male professor literally tell me that I needed to keep my head down and just work on graduating. This guy got the Fulbright. This guy didn't even graduate medical school. So when I tell you that the bias is there, it absolutely is, but it is your job to rise above it, work around it, work through it, and all of those things because you are who you are. And I think the magic of being Black and being a Black woman in particular, everyone wants to be like us. And, because they recognize our brilliance, especially, the statistic that Black women are the most educated women in this country, there's a
Yeah,
lot of barriers that get put in our way. But because you are young, gifted, and Black, it's a non issue. It's important to recognize, um, but you got to persevere and get through it and arm yourself with the education, the strategy, the network to make your dreams come true.
yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that's not an opinion. That is a proven fact. Right
Mhm.
now in the United States, Black women are the most educated portion of the population, and
Yeah.
there's no disputing that. I mean, it's just
Right.
they've had to work so hard. And you talk about those unconscious biases. I got to connect you
Mhm.
with my other friend in Alabama, Dr. Misty Freeman, who wrote a book about that. She
Oh,
wrote a
it's
book called
real. It's real.
Yeah,
It's real.
yeah,
And even in medicine, it's something that I actively have worked on over the years, not assuming that because a person looks this way, they can only have these diagnoses or this is what their financial situation is. Because as a doctor, making those unconscious biases or assumptions, it actually literally can hurt and kill people. So
absolutely.
absolutely right. So it's something that I've worked on, and I am constantly checking in. Okay, am I being biased? Am I being my best self? And I challenge you guys to always aim to be, your best self.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, we got to talk about in 1997, you were on season 6
Uh-huh.
of The Real
There,
World
the
there.
people in this room aren't even old enough to remember this.
Eh, But but they still, the way I was explaining to the kids is,
Hmm.
reality TV has come so far since you were on the show
Oh
28
my
years ago.
gosh, it's so different
But
now. Hmm.
when you guys were on there, and it was cool for us, because Genesis is from Mississippi, so
Hmm.
Mississippi had a big following in it, and it was just cool to see. You were there with the current Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy. How many people can tell their kids, I slept 5 feet away from the Secretary of Transportation and I saw his butt? So it really
I
is.
I would not tell people because I'm embarrassed by him. But okay, moving on.
uh, but it really is. Now reality TV has just gotten so
Yeah,
silly. But you guys
yeah,
talked about real issues,
yeah,
and you
yeah, yeah.
guys had real conversations, and you were
Hmm.
always laying on the couch rolling your eyes. And it really was such a great time in television. MTV was at its height. There was great music on the show, and you guys
Yeah.
literally had cameras following you everywhere for six
Hmm.
months. So we have
Yes.
kids all the time say they want to be on TV. I want to be an influencer. I want to be a YouTuber. So
Yeah.
as somebody that lived the reality
Hmm.
TV life for 6 months and it brought
Hmm.
you fame, how what are the things we don't know and don't see that happens when somebody's on a show like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it really was a different time. It really was a different time. Reality TV now is absolutely scripted, and is not real. We were 100% real. We were never scripted. We were never coerced. The fights were real, all of that, etc. But the issues that we talked about and the connections that we made were real. I think some things that people don't think about when they're doing these kinds of things is the backside of like harassment, um, racism. I really went into a shell after having that experience because we were really original reality TV, not the housewives who now have all this production around them to protect them from people who call them names, who would show up, who would send things to their home. It really was a little bit much of a scarier time not having that protection. But in hindsight, I feel so proud to have been a part of it because there were at the time very few positive representations of Black
Absolutely.
women in media. And in hindsight, being a part of that, I'm in a sorority. I went to Stanford. I was earning my medical degree, actually completed my medical degree, all the things that I started out with, and now seeing and meeting people everywhere. Um, I'm really grateful that I had that experience because I now realize how many lives I influenced.
Yeah, and you guys spent 20 hours a week there at the center in
Yeah.
Boston working with
Hmm.
the underprivileged group and
Hmm.
really got some great hands-on experience. And even if you had not been on the show, I tell everybody, find things like that to get involved in. That's going
Yeah.
to be the difference when it comes to getting the job you want. Now, obviously, that would, I mean, the show itself would have been enough for you anyway, but you got to have that on your resume you still have it on your resume for the rest of your life that you volunteered at a great center like that in Boston.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have it on my resume anymore.
Well,
Many,
with everything you've done, you don't need it.
yeah, yeah. So but I say that to say that the things you do in your teens absolutely will catapult you to the next level of whatever your greatness will be. So
Yeah.
you invest in your life, you invest in relationships, you invest in community service, entrepreneur, whatever it is, and then that thing is going to catapult you into your next level of greatness and beyond. So absolutely, I was proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody. It's the whole season's on Paramount Plus. The whole season's
Hmm.
on YouTube. You can go back and see a time when we didn't just have cell phones with us all the time. The internet was just coming out, and
Yeah.
we all get to hear your 200 things on the list for a man, which brought you quite a lot of fame, which I always thought was very entertaining. Which
And I think
our principal was
everyone,
a fan of the show as well, and she said, "Wasn't she the one that had the list of all the things she had to have for a man?"
yes,
And
yes,
it really was a lot of women identify with you, but you just had the boldness to come out and say it. As funny as it
yeah,
was, with that funny laugh you had. And
yeah,
I tried to tell the kids, when I was in high school, nobody missed the show.
yeah,
All the people here that are my age, we all talk about the real world was what we all watched. They all watched the
yeah.
Housewives and Love and Hip Hop and all that, and that's fine. It's all entertainment.
We
But you
were
guys,
we were that,
yeah.
if
Yeah,
not
but,
bigger,
but I encourage
honestly.
everybody to go back and watch. You guys sit there and you had real conversations about race
Hmm.
relations, about LGBT issues, which was very new at the time. There was not
Very
a lot of
new.
open conversations about that because Genesis being a lesbian from Mississippi and dealing with all that, and just really having to interact with every kind of person.
Hmm.
Because even as an entrepreneur, you cannot pick who walks through that door. You have to be able to work with anybody and say, "Hey, I need help. What can I do for you?" So it really is important to learn to work with every kind of person.
Everybody, everybody. And I think that's one of the things that's so fabulous about, for example, you guys doing presentations and public speaking and um, developing your personality is because that's absolutely right. You have to learn to meet people where they are, and that might change from person to person to person. So really getting experience in all different types of life and culture and activities really sets you up for success in that sense. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do have some questions from the students,
Okay.
and these are really good. And I love this first one because I've seen this, and I can
Hmm.
tell her where to go back and find it. But I want to ask it so we can hear what you say.
Hmm.
But this is Chandra Black. She's in 10th grade,
Okay.
already an entrepreneur, doing some work in cosmetology. Wants to get her cosmetology license after high school. And she asked, "What was your reaction when you found out you were going to be on the Real World?"
I scream. Okay, so let me just give you the backstory. I did not originally apply for the real world. I mentioned that my grades were not that great in my first year, and it's because my grandfather died, and he was like the center of my life. So my grades were crappy, and I was just looking for a way to like take a break from school without actually getting kicked out. So um, I saw this ad come across what then was very early internet, and it said real world road rules, come to San Francisco. I went with a girlfriend of mine to interview really for Road Rules, which is this show where you travel around the United States doing adventures. Um, they actually were more interested in my girlfriend than me. So I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. And then I got a call that was like, hey, let's have some additional conversations, but for this other show. So I did not plan on being on Real World at all. So I went through a few interviews and then there was silence, like nothing happened. And one day they said, hey, can we send the camera crew to your house? Okay, fine. We just want to see how you live. And they showed up with a Boston cream cake and said, you're on your way to Boston. So I clearly lost my mind and was so happy because I didn't know what to expect. I was ready for a new adventure. Clearly, I didn't think it was going to be as amazing as this, but I was through the moon.
Yeah, and I'll show them that clip. whenever we get done because it is pretty easy to find. They sent all y'all the cakes. It was pretty cool, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you got to start that journey with Elka.
Yeah.
To Boston, and she was a great character in herself.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one. This is Jameer Mayfield. He's in 11th grade, member of our band. Also wants to. He's got a barbecue idea for a business, and he asked, "How do you organize your time in order to be the most effective?"
Hmm. Lord, child, I wish I knew. Because I will say that there are times when I absolutely drop balls. I do, like today, like getting the time wrong for today. And my office manager was like, from now on, I need you to include me on your, correspondence because I do drop balls. I think one thing that is important is to open your mouth and ask for help. That
There you go.
keeps you like organized. It keeps a group of people who also keep you on target. And to delegate. I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, we think we have to do everything, and you actually don't. Once you build a team around you of people that you respect you, are hardworking, etc., please don't feel that you have to reinvent the wheel and do everything. So I think that's important. I hope I answered that question, like basically how I get things done.
He's nodding yes. I love it.
Okay.
This
And
is
listen, I'm not going to pretend when I was in high school, I would be up at midnight, sometimes working on projects. And I got up at 6 and went to school. College, I would study in the 24-hour silent room, studied till 3 a.m. I grinded. Here, depending on if I'm delivering babies or not. When I was writing the book, for example, I was pulling 3 a.m. nights every day for months because I have kids, I have a family. Sometimes you have to carve out time when there is no time, make sacrifices. I don't go to every birthday party, soccer game, etc., because I'm trying to build a dream. So you can't do everything. You need to ask for help.
Yeah, and that's such a great point because a lot of people say they want to be entrepreneurs because they listen to they see the TikToks, they say, "Oh, I'm gonna be my own boss, work when I want to."
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you work when you want to and put it off, that business isn't going to be successful because you've got to do all the
Mm-hmm.
work. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to someone on the way over here and I was like, oh my gosh, you need a day off. And he's like, you're the boss. Take the day off. If I don't work, I don't eat. I have 3 kids and a mortgage. You know what I mean? So I don't want to sugarcoat it. If you are going to go this route, it's important that you're committed.
love it. Uh, I like this one. This is Tredarius Quinn. He's in 10th grade, also in our band here, and
Hmm.
he asked, "What is the most important thing someone should have before they start a business?"
A business plan, other than like a business plan. Um, it's more than just like an idea. You need I think a really solid business plan is helpful and not just created by like your own sort of intuition or sense of what you want it to be. A business plan that's been vetted by people who are already doing something similar to what you want to do, an accountant, who you think your target audience is, and again, like in building a business plan, doing focus groups. Is there a need for this? How am I going to actually realize? And like I mentioned before, some business classes, so you can make sure that people aren't going to rip you off. Because people will try. And so I think a solid business plan with some classes behind, and don't think you have to go to school. You can learn so much online. um, that's what I would say is a
Love it.
that that's
I got time for two more. I got time for two
yeah.
more. This
Hmm.
is Shanaria Lewis. She's in 10th grade. Has a great concept for an adult um, sitting service, home health. Really good
Hmm.
market for that,
That's
especially Mississippi.
never going to get old. Never going to get old.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But she asked, "What has been the biggest inspiration to that led to your success?"
You know what? This is going to be silly, and this is not the biggest inspiration, but like often I think about the times that people told me I could not do stuff. And I like the satisfaction of being like, look at me now. I had a guidance counselor in college who, when I declared pre med, she pulled me in, and she was like, "You're cute. Why don't you just marry?" Literally, why don't you just marry one of the football players and be a housewife? And I was like, are you kidding me? So it's part of it is like people who now in my past are like, oh my gosh, she did that. That is kind of a good feeling because I'm petty. But I would say the greatest inspiration is doing it for my family. Like my mom didn't go to college. My grandparents didn't go to college. My grandmother worked at our in our cafeteria, making food so that she walked so I could run. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
awesome.
And I hope that I'm doing the same thing for my kids so now they can fly. So really, I was doing it for the ancestors. I feel proud just to know that every day I'm trying to elevate our people.
That's awesome. And look, I always say, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't do it. You can be the first at
100%.
something, but you can be the best at something too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're a rural community, and I was even quoted in a magazine by saying this. I have no problem saying it online. There were, especially in rural black communities, but rural communities, period, were left behind on access and resources for
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
So just because these grandparents weren't able to do something doesn't mean they can't do
Doesn't
it
mean
now. There's never been a
100%.
better time. Never been a better time to be the first to do something. I
100%.
got one more. This is Quenisha Kennedy. She's in
Okay.
11th grade. 10th grade. I'm sorry, I messed it up.
Hmm.
In 10th, are you in 11th grade or 10th grade? 11th. I got it right. She's in 11th grade, and she
Hmm.
asked, how would you define success?"
Ooh, that's like maybe an impossible question, babe, because it changes. It changes throughout your lifetime. It depends on the relationship. It depends on what your goals are. Right now, success for me is working closer to my happiness. It's actually not financial at all.
Love it.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, and I think that happens with maturity, right? So when I was in my 20s, 30s, I was like, I want commas in my bank account. And then like you get 30s, 40s, and I'm like, you know what? I want I want to be able to like go to Chile on the weekend. And that's what me and my girls did this weekend. We were like, book a trip, we're going to Chile. That flexibility to control your time, to do what
Wow.
it is you want to do and invest in your happiness. So I think it's going to change for you as you get older. Um, I don't think there's a clear definition of success. I know it's not monetary though. I like at this age, I know it's not about money.
Yeah, and it's like we said, if you're passionate about being a big part of your community and making a difference in solving that problem, the money's going to come. And
Hmm.
it really is. If that's not your driving force is to make a difference. I know you've probably delivered so many babies you've lost count, but
Hmm.
you've helped women.
Hmm.
You've helped women that thought they couldn't have a child, and
Hmm.
start families. And it really
Hmm.
that's got to be so fulfilling. And the money comes, but you don't worry about that. So
Yeah.
that's such a great story. Well, we're
Yeah.
almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But a few things before we go. First of
Hmm.
all, everybody can go watch the Real World season 6 on Prudential, the Prudential,
Here we go.
Paramount Plus, and it's also on YouTube.
Hmm.
And CallaWomen'sHealth.com, your book, The Empowered Hysterectomy, is there for purchase for anybody interested in that, for any women that
Instagram.
maybe, yeah. Now, the last thing before we go.
Hmm.
And also, I almost forgot, Dr. Kameelah Says on Instagram. Great
Hmm.
content you're posting. I tell kids all the time, I'm a big sports fan. I like following the athletes and things, but follow people that can put positive things into your life. Don't just follow these wannabe rappers and these people doing stupid stuff. Yeah, I like laughing at them too, but find positive people like yourself. So Dr. Kameelah Says on Instagram, great stuff on there. I love seeing your
Thank
updates.
you. Thank
Really good stuff. So that's Dr. Kameelah Says, one word, on Instagram.
you. Hmm.
But the last thing before we go, it's first of all, it's just so great to have someone that I used to watch in high school all the time join our class. It just shows where technology has brought us. But
Hmm.
as these kids start matriculating through high school and start making decisions about college and family and
Hmm.
career, and look, and like we just said, we're in agreement. They're going to face obstacles because of the color
Hmm.
of their skin,
Hmm.
because of their gender, because of where they're from. And it's not, and again, it's not right, it's not fair, but it's true. So how can they be ready to overcome those obstacles and be just as successful as someone like you?
I know it might seem cliche. I know it might seem cliche, but I really want you guys to think about this. There was a time, especially like in my 20s, almost around the time after doing Real World. Well, I had so much harassment. People, I can't tell you how many people would write in and be like, "You're so stupid. You're so ugly. I can't believe they put," just all this like really negative stuff. And so I had to spend like about a year and a half staring at myself in the mirror and excuse my language, but just being like, you're a bad bitch. You're so smart. You're so pretty. No one is better than you. You know, you
You
rock the
got a
world.
great reaction on. You got a great
Yes,
reaction on that.
yes, you have to, because the world is not going to sit here and feed into you. You have to feed into yourself. And that's really critical, that ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. This is when it starts. This is when you're like, yeah, you want to get with my program. I am the leader. I am the one to be followed. I am the boss. Like, you just have to keep saying it to yourself, because then it just manifests, and not anything that anyone else can tell you is going to matter. It's
There
just
you
not
go.
going to matter, because you already know you're that chick. So I would encourage that. I would encourage you to stay around positive people. If you have some people who are not being their best selves, want to be lazy, want to be derelict, that's not your crew. That's not your crew. You're trying to do big things. So also surround yourself by people who are positive, aspiring, intelligent, push you, encourage you to do the right thing, to show up as your best self. And I think that's what has to get done. I remember very clearly ninth, 10th, 11th grade. And those are life changing years. So don't waste them, and don't think that they're insignificant. You guys are in the prime of your life. It's a good
I
time.
agree, and I got a lot of talent, and a lot of intellect in here. Just a matter of
Yeah.
getting them to believe it. Just a matter of getting them to believe it
Hmm.
sometimes. Well, I know you got to
Hmm.
get back to work and to your family and everything.
Yes,
Thank you
I
so
do. I
much.
do.
Thank you so much for taking some time for us, all the way from New York City. Dr. Kameelah Phillips, owner of Calla Women's Health, right there on the Upper East Side. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye bye.